Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, looking down into the deepest, darkest place on Earth, the Mariana Trench. 11,000 meters of crushing pressure, freezing darkness, and alien creatures that seem pulled from nightmares. Now imagine diving in, no submarine, no protective vessel. Just you and the abyss. Could you survive? Let's find out. The Mariana Trench isn't just deep. It's almost 7 miles straight down into a world we've explored less than the surface of Mars. The pressure down there could crush a car into a soda can in seconds. But what if you had to descend, layer by layer, through this underwater hell? What would happen to your body? What would you see? And is there any technology, real or theoretical, that could keep you alive? Before we dive into the impossible, if you're ready to explore the most extreme survival scenarios on this planet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to see what happens next. Let's begin your descent. The sunlight zone, 0 to 200 meters. You take your first breath and slip beneath the surface. The water is warm, almost comfortable. Sunlight filters down around you in shimmering columns of blue and green. Fish dart past. Coral reefs bloom with color below. This is the world we know, the world that seems safe. But even here, at just 20 meters down, your body is already changing. Pressure is increasing. For every 10 meters you descend, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. At 20 meters, you're experiencing 3 times the pressure you felt at the surface. Your ears pop, your sinuses ache. Free divers train for years to reach depths of 100 meters, holding their breath for minutes at a time. Their lungs compress to the size of oranges. But you're not stopping at 100 meters. You're going deeper, much deeper. At 200 meters, the light begins to fade. The blues turn to grays. The pressure is now 21 times what it was at the surface. A normal human would be dead already. Nitrogen narcosis would have set in, making you feel drunk, disoriented, irrational. Your lungs would be crushed. But let's imagine something. What if your body was different? Deep-diving mammals like sperm whales have collapsible rib cages. Their lungs compress completely, pushing all the air into rigid passageways where nitrogen can't enter the bloodstream. If you had lungs like theirs, you could survive the compression. Your chest would fold inward like an accordion, protecting your organs. You'd look almost alien, your torso shrinking as you descended. But there's another problem. Oxygen. Sperm whales store oxygen in their muscles using a protein called myoglobin, giving their flesh that deep red, almost black color. If your muscles were saturated with myoglobin like theirs, you could hold enough oxygen to survive for over an hour without breathing. Your skin would darken, your blood would thicken, but you'd be alive. And if you're still with me on this impossible journey, drop a comment below. Tell me, would you take the dive if this technology existed? The Twilight Zone, 200 to 1,000 meters. The light is almost gone now. You've entered the Twilight Zone, where only 1% of surface sunlight penetrates. The water temperature has dropped to just above freezing. Around you, creatures begin to glow. Bioluminescence. Jellyfish pulse with electric blue light. Lanternfish flash like stars in the darkness. Giant squid drifts past, its eyes the size of dinner plates, reflecting your presence. This is their world, not yours. At 500 meters, the pressure is 51 atmospheres. That's 51 times the crushing force you felt at the surface. If you were still human, your bones would begin to compress. But let's give you an upgrade. Deep-sea fish have bones that are softer, more cartilaginous, filled with oil and fat instead of dense mineral. Their skeletons bend instead of break. If your skeleton was restructured like theirs, you could withstand the pressure. Your skull would soften. Your spine would become flexible like rubber. You'd move differently, slower, your body absorbing the crushing weight instead of resisting it. You wouldn't stand upright anymore. You'd drift, suspended, your body conforming to the environment. But vision is fading. At 800 meters, there's no sunlight left at all. Human eyes are useless here. But what if you had eyes like a giant squid? Their eyes are the largest in the animal kingdom, designed to capture every photon of bioluminescent light. You'd see the world in shades of blue and green, watching predators and prey glow in the eternal night. Or better yet, what if you didn't need eyes at all? What if you had electroreceptors like sharks, sensing the electrical fields generated by living creatures? You'd feel the heartbeat of a fish from meters away, sense the muscle contractions of a predator stalking you in the dark. This is no longer a human experience. You're becoming something else. The Midnight Zone, 1,000 to 4,000 meters. Total darkness. The Midnight Zone. No plant life, no photosynthesis. Everything that lives here is either a scavenger, a predator, or a filter feeder consuming the constant rain of organic debris falling from above. They call it marine snow. At 2,000 meters, the pressure is 200 atmospheres. That's the weight of a fully loaded jumbo jet pressing down on every square inch of your body. No human technology can protect you at this depth without a pressurized vessel. But what if we had something new? Scientists have theorized about liquid breathing. Perfluorocarbons are liquids that can hold dissolved oxygen. If your lungs were filled with this fluid instead of air, there'd be no air pockets to compress. No pressure differential. The liquid inside you would equalize with the liquid outside you. You'd breathe liquid like a fish breathes water. It sounds like science fiction, but experiments have been done. Mice have survived breathing oxygenated liquid. Humans have tested it in limited trials. The sensation would be horrifying at first, drowning without dying, but your body would adapt. You'd pull oxygen directly from the fluid, exhaling a carbon dioxide back into it. And if you think that sounds insane, let me know in the comments if you'd be willing to try it. At 3,000 meters, you encounter something unusual. A whale fall, the carcass of a gray whale, dead for months, sinking slowly to the ocean floor. It's covered in life. Hagfish burrow into the rotting flesh. Bone-eating worms dissolve the skeleton from the inside out. Crabs swarm over the remains. This single whale will feed the deep-sea ecosystem for years. You drift past, your liquid-filled lungs pulling oxygen from the crushing water around you. Your cartilaginous skeleton flexes and bends. Your electroreceptors sense movement in the darkness. You're no longer human, but you're alive. The Abyssal Zone, 4,000 to 6,000 meters. The Abyssal Zone, 4,000 meters down. Pressure here is 400 atmospheres. The temperature has dropped to 2 degrees Celsius, just above freezing. The water is thick, heavy, pressing in from all sides. At this depth, even the creatures are sparse. A Dumbo octopus floats past, its ear-like fins flapping slowly. Anglerfish drift in the void, their bioluminescent lures dangling in front of razor-sharp teeth. Everything moves slowly here. Energy is scarce, life is patient. But there's something else you need now. Heat. At these temperatures, a normal human would die of hypothermia in minutes. But deep-sea creatures have adaptations. Some fish produce antifreeze proteins in their blood, preventing ice crystals from forming in their cells. If your blood carried these proteins, you could survive the cold. Your blood would flow thick and slow, but it wouldn't freeze. Others, like hydrothermal vent creatures, cluster around volcanic vents where superheated water erupts from the ocean floor. Tube worms, clams, and blind shrimp thrive in these oases of warmth. If you could find a vent, you could survive. But vents are rare, scattered across thousands of miles of barren ocean floor. What if, instead of relying on external heat, your body generated its own? Some deep-sea fish have specialized organs that produce heat through chemical reactions. If you had thermogenic tissue like theirs, you could maintain your core temperature even in freezing water. Your body would burn energy constantly, but you'd stay warm. And speaking of energy, if you're enjoying this descent into the impossible, show some love by hitting that like button. It helps us keep exploring the most extreme scenarios imaginable. The Hadal Zone, 6,000 to 11,000 meters. You've reached the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld. This is the deepest part of the ocean, the trenches that scar the ocean floor like wounds in the Earth's crust. The Mariana Trench is the deepest of them all. At 8,000 meters, the pressure is 800 atmospheres. At 10,000 meters, it's 1,000 atmospheres. And at the very bottom, at Challenger Deep, the deepest point on Earth, the pressure reaches 1,090 atmospheres. That's over 16,000 pounds per square inch. Enough to crush steel, enough to implode titanium spheres. But life exists here. Snailfish have been found at 8,000 meters. Amphipods, small shrimp-like creatures, thrive at the very bottom of the trench. How do they survive? Their bodies are almost entirely water and gel. They have no air pockets, no rigid structures. Their cells are filled with organic molecules called piezolites that stabilize proteins under extreme pressure. If your cells were saturated with piezolites, your proteins wouldn't denature. Your enzymes would still function. Your DNA would remain stable. You'd essentially become gelatinous. Your bones would be almost non-existent. Your muscles would be soft, flexible. You'd look less like a human and more like a jellyfish with a brain, but you'd be alive, functioning, thinking. At 11,000 meters, you finally touch down. The bottom of the Mariana Trench. The seafloor is soft, covered in fine sediment. Strange, pale creatures crawl through the mud. A sea cucumber inches along. An amphipod scuttles past. And here, in the deepest, darkest place on Earth, you realize something. You survived. Not as a human, but as something new. Something adapted to the most extreme environment our planet has to offer. The impossible made possible. So could you survive the Mariana Trench without a submarine? As a human? Absolutely not. You'd be crushed, drowned, frozen, and poisoned by nitrogen within minutes. But with the right biological adaptations, borrowed from the creatures that already live there, survival becomes theoretically possible. Collapsible lungs like a whale. Myoglobin-rich muscles for oxygen storage. Cartilaginous bones that bend instead of break. Electroreceptors for navigation. Liquid breathing to eliminate pressure differentials. Antifreeze proteins to survive the cold. Thermogenic tissue to generate heat. And piezolites to stabilize your cells under crushing pressure. You wouldn't be human anymore, but you'd be alive. And who knows? Maybe one day, with genetic engineering, cybernetic enhancements, or technologies we haven't even imagined yet, humans will explore the deep ocean. Not in submarines, but as living, adapted beings. Until then, the Mariana Trench remains one of the most hostile, alien places on Earth. If you survive this journey with me, make sure you're subscribed because we're just getting started. There are more impossible scenarios to explore, more extreme environments to conquer, and I want you here for all of them. Thanks for diving deep with me today. Now get back to the surface. You've earned it.